Right. Good morning and welcome back to the People's Mirror. So there are statements of Osotsi and Sifuna that yesterday we detail here before the Mirror that were made in the eve of the burial of CJ, that is Cyrus G. Rongo. But away from that, ladies and gentlemen, it's first important to lay the background of those statements. And the background of those statements is that towards the eve of the new year, there was a meeting that was held in Kilgoris in President Ruto's ranch. And in this particular meeting, there were certain officials from the ODM party that are pro the broad-based government that attended this meeting. Now, sources close to the people who attended this meeting reveal that the section that do not support broad-based government, being the section that now Orengo, Osotsi, Sifuna, Babowino, and Amisi affiliate themselves to, were part of the discussion that was arrived at in this particular meeting. But primarily the meeting was talking about a coalition or a possibility of forming one, merging the two parties into 2027. This again is the People's Mirror, and we appreciate you so much for choosing us to be one of your best political commentatorship channels. We welcome the new subscribers that have joined the People's Mirror. Just in the span of yesterday, we have received over 500 new subscribers, and we just want to say thank you. If you're joining us for the first time, we'd want to request you to hit the subscribe button so this can also be your political commentatorship channel. In this particular episode, we want to put before the mirror the statements that come out of this meeting that was held in Kilgoris, but more importantly, the statement that now has been said by Oburu Odinga, declaring himself as a fit candidate to take the presidential task in the 2027 race. Now, let's start from the beginning. The ODM party has been divided in the recent past, concluded year, moving into this new year, whether or not in 2027 they are going to front a presidential candidate. Towards the end of the previous year, the ODM party leader, the original party leader Raila Amolo Odinga, succumbed, and the statements that he made prior to his demise included the fact that no one had said categorically that the ODM party would not front a candidate in 2027. However, shortly after his demise, the party was divided into two factions, with one part of it supporting the broad-based government into 2027 and beyond, and only calling for the position of the deputy presidency as part of the condition in staying in that particular coalition. Yet, the other faction of it said that the only agreement that existed between Raila Odinga and Ruto outlined the nature of their agreement, and the nature of that agreement was to end in 2027. And so, borrowing from the last words of Raila Odinga, this other faction believed that in 2027 the ODM party should front a candidate. Now, that push and pull seems to have been coming to an end, because now sources reveal that towards the end of that very year, today on the 2nd of the new year, so towards the end of the 2025, there was a meeting that was held in Kilgoris ranch that actually put a rest to this particular statements. Later on, that will be the major part of our analysis. But first, let's take a look at what Oburu said that is now making a tantrums in the Kenyan political scene. Oburu, while speaking from Mombasa, said categorically that the constitution of the ODM party provides for the position of an individual to run for presidency. Now, in clarifying the party position, Oburu said that the party constitution outlines that the only person that can ascend to that particular position of power to contest for presidency under the ODM party ticket is the party leader. Oburu Odinga, who is the current party leader, went ahead to say in his speech that he's currently the party leader, and so therefore, if the ODM party feels fit to front a candidate in 2027, then they should front him and Oburu as the party leader. I have a lot of comments on this particular party position because, different parties have different constitution, but it would be very amazing that a political party does not have a democratic space in the national position, that you can contest in nomination for any of the seats within the party, but when it comes to who vies within the presidential party umbrella, or using the party as an umbrella in 2027 and beyond, then that only becomes a reserve of the political party leader. But other than that, let us look at the statements that have been made around who should become president and whether or not the ODM party is fit to front a candidate in 2027. You see, Wandai made it clear sometimes back towards the end of 2025, and we detailed it here, the People's Mirror, that he was certain that the ODM party cannot win an election in 2027. Actually, in Wandai's word, he said that if the ODM party was to front a presidential candidate, and that presidential candidate was to go with President William Ruto or against President William Ruto in Ugunja, Siaya, the backyard of Baba and the backyard of the ODM party, then Wandai was 100% certain that the UDA party or William Ruto would still defeat that particular ODM presidential candidate in Siaya, in Ugunja. Now, this shows you the level of entrenchment of this current CSS into the UDA party and understanding of the weaknesses of the ODM party to the level that they believe that their own party cannot front a presidential candidate in 2027. But of course, Wandai was not talking in isolation, but he has been quoted repeatedly to say that the ODM party is not fit and does not have a fit candidate for 2027. But he himself has been quoted saying that in 2032 he is fit to take the mantle on top of the vehicles and of course vie for this particular seat on the ODM party ticket, but he's waiting for 2032, believing very well that in 2027 there is no fit individual from the ODM party who can actually ascend and become the president against President William Ruto. Now, Oparanya himself was also quoted saying in the burial of the late Jirongo that if even he has to leave the ODM party, then he shall, if that now brings the unity within the party. But sources now reveal that he had even hinted leaving the ODM party to form a strong political party with the Luhya nation to strengthen the Luhya bloc ahead of 2027 major polls. Now, people have said dismantle the party, pull away the Luhya bloc, and confuse the Luhya nation with Oburu as a way of neutralizing the influence of the ODM party as a bloc into 2027. But as it seems right now, the people affiliated to President William Ruto's regime and who are serving as CSS in the broad-based arrangement do not want to leave that arrangement in 2027 and are even shelving their ambitions for 2032 if it means that 2027 they have to discard their own parties and support President William Ruto. So where would Oburu's statement be coming from? Now, away from the CSS, there's also another camp of the ODM party that are pro the government, but are not in government and are within the ODM party defending the party policies and defending the broad-based arrangement within the party. You could mention some small fish like Opundo Kaluma, who is just an MP of the Homa Bay town constituency, who's been very loud on this particular arrangement. But higher up the hierarchy, you can mention individuals like Junet Mohamed, who hold positions in the National Assembly, who have been quoted several to be saying that the broad-based arrangement will stay into 2027 and beyond. Junet, who we will detail later on, said even yesterday that he now will offer himself to represent the Washenzi group, of course, of the ODM party after the statements of Sifuna were made, which we will detail fully later on in another episode. Then, other than Badi, you can also take a look of someone like Wanga, who is currently eyeing that particular deputy position arrangement, who was quoted saying that moving into the 2027 negotiation table, President William Ruto should put all the cards bare. And with the cards bare, it means they need to renegotiate terms of getting into this particular arrangement into 2027 and beyond. And so it shows that they are willing to stay in this arrangement and even go into the election with this arrangement as long as the terms on the table favor them. Among the terms on the table previously, Oburu had clearly said that one of their terms is the fact that they are not going for anything less than the deputy presidency position. Now, it seems like the pressure to have a presidential candidate under the ODM party ticket has mounted so strongly for this other party that now they feel that if they do not offer a presidential candidate out of their own cohort, then the younger undivided factions of the party that do not support the broad-based arrangement might themselves decide to offer a presidential candidate. And to that, they have also now put an end. Oburu said categorically that the constitution of the party outlines that the only person that can vie with the party ticket as the presidential candidate under the party is the party leader. And currently, none other than him is the party leader. And so if the ODM party unanimously feels the need to have a presidential candidate in the ballot, Oburu now offers himself as the presidential candidate. I was just thinking of another party like the UGM party that is started by a former member of parliament and currently has a presidential candidate who was also a former chief justice. And this shows you how democracies in other parties gives you room to actually ascend all the way to the national position of becoming a presidential candidate within your party without any hindrances. But the ODM party seems to have created intentional setbacks to actually pull away where individuals would feel that they have the dominance to rise for the position of preeminence of presidency, but do not have support of the party. You see, this is coming shortly after Sifuna himself has declared that if the National Delegation Committee will decide to go the route away, then it is fine. But if the National Delegation Committee will decide that they want a presidential candidate in 2027, then Sifuna himself has even offered to become the president under that party ticket. This is also coming after polls done by national television show that if Babu Owino was to actually dare to become the president of this country in 2027, then he's among the top 5 that the Kenyan people would be voluntarily willing to vote. Now, these two younger individuals are not in the broad-based arrangement of the UDA ODM arrangement currently, and so the declaration by Oburu that no other person can vie for the position of the presidency using this party ticket exclusive for the party leader is a direct hindrance to their political success. Now, Oburu said that whoever is salivating for this particular seat within the ODM party should look elsewhere. And now that elsewhere conversation is coming shortly after I've said Sifuna himself declared in the death of Cyrus Jirongo that there is a need for a national delegation conference to decide the future of the ODM party, devoid of this particular side advice that Sifuna says Oburu is being given by sections of the ODM party that have not sat down unanimously to consult with the entire ODM party and to negotiate on the terms of the ODM party. Sifuna himself said that out of that national delegation conference, if they decide that it is him that is fit to actually take that seat, then he would be willing to face whoever will be in that ballot in 2027. Now, when Oburu said that whoever is salivating for this seat should look elsewhere, that message was aimed at Sifuna and their likes who feel like they can run for the party position or become the party presidential candidate under the ticket while Oburu is still alive. Now, it is very laughable. Either the Secretary General of the party does not know the constitution of his party to the extent that he would dare say that he wants to vie for presidency under a party that has a party leader, or the bottlenecks of a party leader being introduced by Oburu are not the constitutional dimensions. Later on, after we read fully the constitution of the ODM party, we will detail for you what is the position when it comes to who will vie as a presidential candidate under that particular party. Of course, Sifuna's speech came at Lugari, where he was apologizing to President Uhuru Kenyatta for the section of the ODM party that have abused him and hurled insults at him for getting hugely his contributions during the campaigns of President, or not so President, but the late former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, who was campaigning to become a president in 2022. Sifuna, who publicly apologized for the sections of the ODM leaders who have forgotten that particular assertion or those particular sacrifice, also was under fire when now not only was he being attacked by the likes of Junet Mohammed, who has now provided himself as the official spokesperson for the Washenzi part of the ODM party, but attacks were coming left, right and center, including from certain individuals young in this particular race and hopeful in the position of Sifuna, including Kasmuel Makoure, who spent an entire over 5 minutes addressing Sifuna on a video on X on whether or not he's using the position of ODM to advance his own statements or to advance statements of the party. These individuals feel like Sifuna's voice is the voice of the party and should be made in line of the party, and so when he makes statements that shows the division in the party, or rather shows a distancing himself from the decisions of the party leader, then they feel that Sifuna himself should leave that particular seat. Now, on Kasmuel's story, people have actually landed on that particular story differently. Others feel like Kasmuel is insignificant to actually talk to Sifuna on the position of Secretary General. But others also look at it that by the time Sifuna was taking the position of Secretary General from the ODM former Secretary General being Ababu Namwamba, after 18 months vacancy in that particular seat, he was not so much different from Kaswil Makoure. And so this competition of power dominance on the Secretary General position is being viewed against the old guard, new guard youth in that particular spectrum, and we'll keep you detailed on how it unfolds. polls. But back on Oburu says that this year, 2026, and probably by March, they will have settled on the future of this particular political party. We detailed yesterday that March 6th and 7th, after Agnes Zani's last report, will be the day of determining whether or not this particular coalition will merge forward together as a merged of parties, or whether ODM will take a different center stage from this particular thing. Now, from the meeting of Kilgoris that we will detail shortly, it seems very, very clearly that Oburu's statement narrows what they agreed, that by March, they will have agreed whether the ODM party is going alone or with coalition. And by the end of this year, they will have decided who is that coalition, if it's a coalition that the ODM party will join in 2027 presidential race. It says this year too will be the year that they decide if or not they'll go with a coalition. Now, on talks of whether this party is being sold, which are the major talks in town right now, the section of Osotsi, Orengo, Sifuna, Babu Amisi, and the likes are being accused of actually selling this particular party to Uhuru Kenyatta. And Uhuru Kenyatta made statements to that effect yesterday. We have detailed that here, the People's Mirror. You can find it in one of our recent episodes. But then there's also talk that this party is being sold to Honorable President William Ruto. And these talks of selling the ODM party either to President Uhuru Kenyatta or President William Ruto have been put to rest by the statement that was made by Oburu. Oburu now says that this party is not on sale and is not being sold. He says the party is so huge that it cannot be sold. Also says that the party, if being sold, he is not even aware of the value that would be quoted for selling the party. So it just restores the confidence of the Kenyan people and the people that support the ODM party, that their party is here to stay and no one is coming to sell their party. Now, there was a meeting, of course, in Kilgoris. This meeting has been covered by national reporting mechanisms, including national magazines and televisions. And there is a leaked information coming out of this meeting that was held on Thursday last week at President Ruto's Kilgoris ranch. First, the people who attended this meeting included Oburu, who is the party leader of the ODM party currently, the chairperson of the party, Honorable Gladys Wanga, the deputy party leader, that is Nasir. There was, of course, CS Wandai, CS Oparanya, Junet, who is the leader of the majority, the leader of the minority rather, in the National Assembly. Yes, Oburu Odinga, Gladys Wanga, Wandai, Oparanya, Junet, and Nasir. These individuals attended a meeting with President Ruto in closed door for 2 hours on Thursday in his Kilgoris ranch. And the talks are some of the individuals that are not pro the broad-based government, being Sifuna, Orengo, Sotsi, Babu, Amisi, and the likes, are now, we are being informed by sources that are close to the people who attended this meeting that they were discussed as people that now need to be ousted from this political party. Now, this political party is taking a different turn, not the former ODM party that it used to be, that embraced different voices and noises and demonstrations, but it's now being rebranded to become a tool of winning power in 2027. And so if this winning power in 2027 beds itself on the fact that it has to be won alongside President William Ruto, then sources revealed that these certain individuals are making that decision moving forward difficult. And as a result of this meeting that was held in Kilgoris, their fate has been sealed. Now, sources tell us that Ruto promised to halt all the activities of the UDA party in the Nyanza region so as not to create tension around the broad-based government. You remember sometimes back we witnessed tension as within the houses or within the very house of the national chairperson of the ODM party, that is Gladys Wanga, where now her deputy, Honorable Oyugi Magwanga, deflected to support another candidate in a by-election. And some of the reasons or talks that were being said was that the candidate that was being supported by Magwanga also received overwhelming support from the UDA party. Now, part of this particular meeting, or part of the things that came out of this meeting, we are being informed, was the fact that the president now has promised to halt all the UDA activities around the Nyanza region to let the ODM party grow, and so as not to, of course, cause tension within the broad-based arrangement. They have both agreed that now the two parties have turned into a mission to have voter enrollment and registration taking place in this part of the country, and also mobilization for enrollment to have IDs, so that come 2027 the numbers from the Nyanza area, if they're to vote as a block, are of course numbers of importance. Interestingly, out of this this conversation was also the talk of forming a coalition and merging these two parties together ahead of the 2027 major elections. Now, Nasir, who made statements to this effect, have said that the ODM party in the previous 3 elections have gone the coalition way, having gone CORD, having gone NASA, and having gone through the Azimio way. And so Honorable Nasir, who is the governor of Mombasa currently, says that there is no problem with the ODM UDA forming a coalition into 2027 major election, considering the fact that that is how ODM has been seeking power in the previous governments. Now, other political analysts have said that this has a risk of making ODM face the fate of the former Ford Kenya, that of course was also founded by the father of the individual who founded the ODM party, saying that getting into that particular union that is in itself a way of diluting the effect and the dominance of the ODM party, considering the fact that parties always just get into coalition to have results, and after that coalitions hardly sustain themselves. Now, if you take a look with something like Ford Kenya, a party that can no longer sustain a position of an MCA by election in its own backyard, then political analysts, some of them, have projected a coalition with the ODM UDA to render ODM useless, that by 2032 the party might even lose serious or not so serious by elections in its own backyard, leave alone major elections in its own backyard. Now, these talks are coming amidst the need to convene the National Delegation Committee to decide the fate of the party, where the pro-party members want this particular committee done on March, but the pro-broad-based members of the party now want this done as early as January, so that conversations with UDA and with President Ruto on the terms of 2027 and on the terms of the broad-based arrangement moving post 2027 can be discussed now at an early time, giving enough time now to discuss it and to implement them moving forward. Now, the ODM party has the numbers that Ruto need, and of course Oburu is now gatekeeping the position of anyone within the ODM numbers who can seek those numbers for presidency, using the constitution of the party, saying that no one within the party can vie for the position in the presidency when the party leader is still alive. And Ruto is quickly absorbing the ODM party into his UDA machinery to secure the second term. Now, the move is dismantle ODM, as we said, pull away the lawyer block, as Osotsi and Sifuna are now crying fall, and after that, of course, use the Oburu effect and the Oginga effect to stem unity of the Luos, or disunite them, or stem some authority that no one can go against, because of course Oburu is the brother of the late Raila Odinga and is currently the party leader. President William Ruto, who was quoted saying that he understands politics pretty much, give the ODM party an opportunity to fit themselves and come in order, while it's also fitting the UDA party and bringing it while it's in order. But now it seems that that means gatekeeping the position of presidency from anyone who might be a hopeful within the ODM space, while reserving that for negotiation table come 2027. Here the People's Mirror, we will keep you updated on what else envelops out of this ODM suffering ahead of now and 2027, as they all unanimously deciding to find a place as a home now 2027 and beyond in the Kenyan political landscape. Until our next episode.